Lena had always liked quiet nights. On the mining colony of Eritos, the desert wind swept across the settlement, making the tall metal towers hum softly. Most colonists stayed inside at night, fearing the strange wildlife that prowled under the pale green sky. Lena, however, often walked the supply corridors alone, checking stores and making sure the systems were running smoothly. That night, as she passed the cargo hangar, she noticed a small movement behind one of the stacked crates. At first, she thought it was a rat or one of the colony's mechanical drones acting up. But as she stepped closer, she froze. A tiny creature peeked out from behind the crate. Its skin shimmered slightly in the dim lights, and its large, round eyes looked directly at her. It had 4 thin arms, each ending in delicate fingers, and its head was slightly bigger than its body. The creature looked weak, malnourished, and frightened. "Hey there," Lena said softly, kneeling down. She kept her voice gentle. "Are you lost?" The creature did not move closer, but it tilted its head as if it understood her. Its eyes were wide and curious, but also full of hunger and fear. Lena could see the ribs under its thin skin. Her heart tightened. She had grown up in the colony, seeing many animals struggle, but this was unlike anything she had ever seen. She slowly reached into her backpack and pulled out a small pack of nutrient bars. Lena carefully broke one into pieces and placed it on the floor near the creature. She stepped back, giving it space. The alien child sniffed the food cautiously, then slowly moved forward to eat. "You're hungry, aren't you?" Lena whispered. She wanted to help, even if it might be dangerous. She had heard stories about humans being attacked by alien species, but this child did not seem threatening. It only needed help. After eating, the creature sat back on its thin legs and stared at Lena. It blinked slowly and made a soft, musical sound, almost like a hum. Lena smiled. She did not know if it was a thank you, but it felt like one. She gently held out her hand. The creature hesitated, then reached out its small fingers to touch hers. It was warm and soft, though fragile. "You're not alone anymore," Lena said. "I'll help you." Lena looked around. The hangar was empty. She knew she could not keep the child here for long. If the colony leaders found it, they might order it removed or destroyed. But she could not leave it out in the cold desert, not with the wind so strong and the nights so long. She decided to bring it to a small storage room she rarely used. It was clean and quiet, and she could leave some food and water there. As she guided the alien child through the corridors, she noticed how carefully it moved, almost like it was learning how humans walked. Its curiosity was endless. It touched the walls, the pipes, and the lights, making soft humming noises every time. Lena could not help but laugh quietly at its wonder. Once inside the small room, Lena gave the child some water in a shallow dish. She watched as it drank carefully, dipping its tiny hands into the water and bringing them to its mouth. After drinking, it sat cross-legged on the floor and looked at Lena expectantly. Lena took a seat nearby, unsure what to do next. She knew she had to make a decision. The colony rules were clear: no contact with unknown alien species. They were considered dangerous and unpredictable. But Lena also knew what it felt like to be alone and hungry. She remembered her own childhood, the times she had been afraid and hungry in the harsh desert, before her parents brought her to the colony. She could not leave this child to suffer. For the next few hours, Lena stayed with the alien child. She offered more food and water and even tried to make it comfortable with a small blanket. The child seemed to relax in her presence, humming softly and leaning slightly against her. Lena felt a strange connection. There was intelligence in its eyes, and she could tell it was aware of her kindness. Outside, the wind continued to howl, and the colony slept. Lena thought about what might happen in the morning when others discovered the child. She knew she had to be careful. She could not let anyone know yet. The child was too small and vulnerable. But she also knew that hiding it would only be temporary. Someone would eventually notice. As Lena watched, the child began to mimic her movements. When she raised her hand, it lifted its tiny arm. When she smiled, it tilted its head and made a soft hum. Lena laughed quietly. "You're learning fast," she said. The child looked at her, blinking slowly, and hummed in a way that sounded almost like a giggle. Suddenly, a faint noise came from outside the door. Lena froze. It was the sound of footsteps, soft but deliberate. She knew it could be a security officer or another colonist. She quickly whispered, "Stay here. Don't move." The child immediately crouched low, almost disappearing behind the blanket. Lena's heart raced as she peeked through the small window on the door. A lone maintenance worker walked past, carrying a toolbox. He did not notice Lena or the child. Once he was gone, Lena exhaled slowly. She realized how dangerous the situation could be. She had broken the rules, but she had also done the right thing. The child was alive, safe, and no longer hungry. Hours passed, and the child eventually fell asleep on the blanket. Lena watched it quietly, her mind racing with questions. Who were they? Where did they come from? Did they have others like them? And most importantly, what would happen when the mother came? She did not know the answer, but a strange feeling told her that the mother would come eventually. For now, Lena made a promise to herself and the child. She would protect it. She would keep it safe. And she would find a way to understand it, no matter what the colony rules said. As the first light of the pale green sun touched the horizon, Lena whispered, "You're not alone. I will not let anything happen to you." The alien child stirred in its sleep, humming softly, as if it understood. Lena knew that this was only the beginning of something much larger than herself. The sun rose slowly over the desert plains of Eridos, casting a pale green light across the colony. Lena stood near the storage room door, watching the alien child sleep. Its small chest rose and fell in steady rhythm, and a soft hum came from its lips. Lena felt a mixture of wonder and worry. The child was unlike anything she had seen before, and she knew that hiding it was only temporary. Someone would eventually notice. She stepped outside into the narrow corridor. The colony was waking up. Workers moved quickly, carrying tools and equipment. Drones floated above the streets, checking pipelines and machinery. Life went on as usual, but Lena could not shake the feeling that something larger was at work. She made her way to the supply office to log her nightly checks. Machines in the colony had been acting strangely lately. Several mining drones had stopped responding during the night. Lights flickered in the sleeping quarters, and some security cameras had recorded static images that disappeared before anyone could review them. Lena knew these malfunctions might be nothing, but her instincts told her otherwise. Back in the storage room, the alien child had awoken. It sat upright, blinking its large eyes. When it saw Lena, it hummed softly and held out its tiny hands. Lena smiled and placed a small nutrient bar near it. The child picked it up carefully and began to eat. Every movement was precise, almost as if it was learning by observing Lena. "You're very careful," Lena said. "I think you understand more than anyone expected." The child hummed again and reached toward a small glowing panel on the wall. Lena moved quickly and gently guided its hands away. The colony equipment could be dangerous if the child touched the wrong buttons. Lena wondered where the child's family might be. It had come alone, hiding in the cargo hangar. Was it an orphan, or had it been sent to scout? She did not know, but a part of her felt certain that it had a parent somewhere nearby. She remembered the stories of alien species that were protective and intelligent, willing to defend their young with incredible skill. Lena shivered at the thought. That day, Lena decided to observe the colony more closely. She moved through the streets, checking machines and keeping an eye on drones. Strange things continued to happen. A conveyor belt in the mining section stopped without explanation. A security camera flickered and then went dark for a few minutes. Workers whispered about equipment acting weird, but no one could explain it. Lena returned to the storage room at midday. The child was waiting, sitting on the blanket with its legs crossed. It hummed a melody she had never heard before, soft and gentle, yet oddly powerful. Lena listened carefully. There was intelligence behind the sound, a pattern in the way it repeated notes. She wondered if it was trying to communicate. She tried mimicking the hum. The child tilted its head and hummed back. Lena smiled. "We can understand each other, little one. I promise I'll keep you safe." The child leaned closer and reached out, brushing its fingers against her arm. It was a gesture of trust. Lena felt a warmth in her chest. She had never bonded with anyone like this before. As night fell, Lena noticed more signs of something unusual. Shadows moved in ways that did not match the light sources. Some equipment emitted strange sparks, as if sensing the presence of the child. She began to suspect that the colony was not just witnessing random malfunctions. There was intelligence behind the disturbances, something that reacted to the child's presence. The wind outside carried soft, eerie sounds, almost like whispers. Lena paused, listening carefully. The noises were faint, but they seemed to respond to her movements. She looked toward the desert horizon and wondered if it could be the parent, watching from afar. Her heart raced at the thought. What if the mother alien was already nearby? She was probably much larger and far more powerful than the child. Lena's stomach tightened. Suddenly, the child jumped up and ran to the corner of the room. Lena followed and saw that it was staring at a small crack in the wall. It hissed softly, a warning sound she had not heard before. Lena crouched beside it. "Do you see something?" she whispered. The child pointed one tiny hand toward the crack. Lena peered closely but saw nothing unusual. The hum from the child grew louder, almost like a chant. Then she noticed it, faint footprints on the dust outside the storage room door. They were unlike human tracks, elongated with small, delicate toes. Lena's heart skipped a beat. The child had been here before, and someone or something had come to check on it. The mother. She realized the footprints were not made that day, they were fresh. Lena quickly moved to secure the room. She placed additional barriers at the door and instructed the child to stay low. She could not predict what would happen if the parent arrived. The colony had no idea that such an intelligent species existed on Eridos. The consequences could be catastrophic if humans and aliens met without understanding. Hours passed. Lena stayed with the child, whispering reassurances. She felt a mixture of fear and fascination. The alien was small, vulnerable, and yet completely aware of her presence. Its intelligence was undeniable. Every movement it made seemed calculated. Every hum and gesture carried meaning. Lena realized that she had stumbled into something extraordinary, something that could change how humans saw alien life forever. By midnight, Lena noticed the first signs of activity outside the colony. Shadows flitted across the desert sand, moving faster than any human could. Faint shapes darted from dune to dune, observing. She could not see them clearly, but she knew instinctively that these were not animals. They were watching the child. Lena sat with the alien, her mind racing. "I think your mother is close," she said softly. The child looked at her and hummed, almost in agreement. Lena reached out and held its tiny hand. She had no idea what would happen next, but she knew one thing: she could not abandon it. She would face whatever came, even if it was terrifying. The rest of the night passed in tense silence. Lena and the child stayed together, alert and cautious. The wind continued to howl outside, carrying strange sounds and shifting shadows. Lena could feel the presence of something larger, intelligent, and powerful moving in the desert. She knew that the encounter with the child was only the beginning. As dawn approached, Lena whispered, "Whatever comes, we will face it together." The alien child hummed in response, leaning slightly against her. Lena felt a quiet determination grow in her chest. She was ready to protect this child, and she knew that the mother, whoever she was, would be a challenge unlike any she had ever faced. The colony on Eridos had never been quieter. Lena moved through the corridors early in the morning, checking on the equipment and the workers. Something about the air felt different. Machines that had worked perfectly the day before now gave off strange noises. Conveyors stuttered, lights flickered in some of the dorms, and even the drones hovered oddly, as if sensing something beyond the human eye. Lena's heart raced as she connected these malfunctions to the alien child she had hidden. She returned to the small storage room where the child sat cross-legged on the blanket. Its large, round eyes followed her every move. When Lena knelt down, the child hummed a soft tune, one she had not heard before. It sounded urgent, almost like a warning. Lena frowned. "What is it trying to tell me?" she whispered. She could not speak its language, but the tone made her uneasy. Something was coming. Lena's unease grew when she received a communication from the neighboring research outpost. The signal was weak, distorted, and full of static, but she understood the message enough to know something terrible had happened. The outpost had been destroyed. Entire buildings were gone, and the few remaining signals showed no signs of life. Colonists panicked when they heard the news. Some said it must have been a natural disaster, but Lena's instincts told her otherwise. The signs were too precise, too controlled to be random. She sat with the child, placing a hand gently on its small arm. "Did this happen because of your family?" she asked softly. The child tilted its head, hummed a low sound, and touched her hand in reassurance. Lena's stomach tightened. The child did not speak, but she could sense a bond forming, a deep connection of trust. She knew the mother of this child would come, and she feared what she would find. Colonists began noticing small strange events. Equipment failed in unusual ways, and shadows seemed to move on their own. Lena observed carefully, realizing that the colony might be experiencing the first signs of the mother alien's approach. The child, small as it was, seemed aware of these disturbances. It would stand alert, ears moving toward any sound, eyes scanning the room, as if reading the invisible movements around it. Lena decided she needed to understand more about the child's species. She returned to the colony's small archive, searching old reports from previous expeditions. There were vague mentions of intelligent desert-dwelling species, but nothing detailed. Most scientists had assumed these beings were minor threats, rarely encountered. Lena's experience proved otherwise. The child was clever, sensitive, and aware. If the mother came, she would not be gentle. That evening, Lena watched the desert from a small observation window. The sun dipped low, turning the sand into soft shades of green and gray. In the distance, she noticed shapes moving across the dunes. They were faster and more precise than any human or natural creature. Her heart skipped a beat. The mother alien had arrived. Lena returned to the storage room to check on the child. It looked up at her, eyes wide and alert, humming softly. Lena knelt beside it and whispered, "I think she's close. You have to be ready." The child responded with a series of gentle hums, moving closer to Lena. She could feel the tension in its small body. Lena realized that this was no ordinary parent. The mother's species was precise, calculated, and protective. Any threat to their young would be dealt with immediately and silently. Lena had no doubt the previous outpost disaster was their doing. It had been a warning or a message. As the night deepened, Lena noticed more unusual occurrences. Lights flickered in patterns, almost like someone was observing her movements. Doors she had closed properly were slightly ajar when she returned. And in the sand near the outer walls of the colony, faint tracks appeared, elongated, delicate, yet deep enough to suggest a large, heavy creature. Lena's mind raced. She needed to protect the child, but she also knew the colony would panic if the mother appeared openly. She decided to keep the child close and quiet. They spent the night in the small storage room, whispering and humming. Lena mimicked the child's hums, trying to communicate her calmness and reassurance. The child responded with small gestures, tilting its head and brushing her arm gently. Despite the fear, Lena felt a strange comfort. They understood each other in a way words could not explain. Suddenly, a sound came from outside the room. Lena froze. It was soft, deliberate footsteps too heavy to be human, but careful, precise, and silent in the way predators move. She signaled the child to stay down, and they both crouched low behind the blanket pile. Lena could feel her pulse pounding in her ears. The air seemed to thicken, as if the presence outside was aware of them. The steps paused near the door. Lena held her breath, imagining the size and power of the creature outside. The child hummed low, almost like a warning. Lena realized that the mother alien was observing them now, judging their intentions. She knew she could not make a wrong move. The alien's intelligence was clear, and any mistake could be fatal. Hours passed with tense silence. Lena stayed beside the child, whispering reassurances and stroking its small hands. She could sense the mother nearby, moving through the colony, watching, and waiting. The colony slept unaware of the danger in their midst. Lena felt both fear and awe. The mother was not cruel, she was protective, precise, and intelligent beyond human understanding. Lena realized that understanding this intelligence would be key to survival. As dawn approached, Lena watched the first light touch the desert horizon. The footprints outside the storage room were gone. The hums of the child had quieted, but their bond remained strong. Lena whispered, "We survived the night. We will survive whatever comes next." The child tilted its head and hummed softly, leaning against her shoulder. Lena's mind raced with plans. She needed to protect the child, but she also knew that hiding it could only last for so long. The colony would eventually discover the presence of the alien. She needed a strategy, one that could prevent panic and violence, one that could allow humans and aliens to coexist. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden, soft vibration in the floor. Lena froze. The vibration was not from machinery, it was deliberate, slow, and powerful. The child's ears twitched, and its eyes widened. Lena realized with a cold certainty that the mother alien was moving closer, somewhere in the colony, invisible, silent, but aware of every movement. The warning was clear. The mother was not here to communicate. She was here to protect. Lena tightened her grip on the child's small hand. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And Lena knew that this encounter could change everything the colony believed about alien life. The mother's arrival would test courage, intelligence, and the bond between species. With the first rays of sun lighting the desert, Lena whispered to the child, "Stay close. Trust me. I will not let anything happen to you." The child hummed softly in reply, leaning slightly against her. Lena took a deep breath. She was ready for the warning the mother had brought and for whatever would follow. The desert night was darker than usual. The twin moons of Eridos cast long, pale shadows across the colony. Lena had stayed awake, keeping watch over the alien child. Its small hands clutched hers, and its large eyes darted nervously toward the windows and doors. Every sound of the wind or shifting metal made it tense. Lena could feel the fear in its small body, but she also sensed a strange confidence. The child knew something was coming, something bigger than both of them. Then Lena heard it, a soft, almost imperceptible movement outside the walls. At first, it sounded like wind brushing against the metal towers. But then she realized it was not the wind. The sound was deliberate, controlled, and impossibly quiet. Lena's heart began to race. She motioned for the child to stay close, and they crouched behind the blankets. From the shadows of the colony, a massive shape moved. Lena could barely make out its form, but she sensed its size and strength. The creature was unlike anything she had seen. It moved silently, smoothly, without disturbing the sand or the air. Its skin shimmered faintly, blending with the darkness like a living shadow. Every step was calculated, every motion precise. This was the mother. Lena held her breath as the mother alien glided through the corridors. She could see the elongated limbs, the sleek body, and the head that tilted with intelligence, scanning the surroundings. The colony was asleep, unaware of the predator in their midst. Lena felt a chill. She had expected danger, but not such a perfect, silent hunter. The mother paused near the storage room door. Lena could hear her small child humming softly, as if calling out. The mother tilted her head, and Lena felt the weight of her gaze. It was intelligent, assessing, and protective. The mother's eyes, large and dark, fixed on Lena. There was no anger, only careful observation. Lena realized that the alien was judging her intentions, deciding whether she was a threat. She whispered to the child, "Stay still. Do not move. Let her see that we mean no harm." The child leaned closer to Lena, pressing its small body against hers. Lena could feel the warmth of life, fragile and precious, in her arms. The mother seemed to recognize this bond. She did not attack. Instead, she circled the room silently, her eyes never leaving the child. Outside the storage room, Lena noticed several lights flicker. Machines in the colony were reacting to the mother's presence. Conveyors stopped, doors locked automatically, and drones hovered, unsure of what to do. The mother's intelligence seemed to extend beyond her own body. She was aware of everything, sensing the environment in ways Lena could not understand. Suddenly, a colonist entered the hallway, carrying a maintenance tool. He froze when he saw the faint shimmer of the mother alien moving in the shadows. Lena quickly grabbed the child and pulled it behind the blanket pile. The colonist's flashlight illuminated part of the corridor. The mother did not move hastily. She waited, silent and patient, then slipped past him without a sound. The man stumbled, confused, and continued down the hallway, unaware of the creature that had passed him. Lena's heart pounded. She realized how powerful and intelligent the mother was. She was not reckless. She did not attack humans unnecessarily. Her actions were precise, calculated, and protective. Lena understood why the neighboring research outpost had been destroyed. The mother had not acted out of anger, but to protect her young. Any threat to her child would be eliminated without hesitation. The child hummed softly, looking at Lena with wide eyes. Lena whispered, "She is here to protect you. She will not harm us if we stay calm." The child's small hands pressed against hers, and Lena felt a surge of determination. She had to keep the child safe. She had to ensure that no human panicked and caused harm. The colony was unprepared for this encounter, and only careful observation could prevent disaster. The mother moved closer to the storage room. Lena could see her face now, intelligent, focused, and aware. There was no malice, only a quiet determination. Lena realized that communication would not be simple. The mother did not speak in words or sounds familiar to humans. Her actions, her presence, and her movements were her way of expressing intent. Lena needed to understand her quickly. The mother stopped at the doorway. She looked at Lena and the child. Lena felt a strange connection in that moment. It was as if the mother could sense her heart, her intentions, and her loyalty to the child. She was testing Lena, measuring her worthiness. Lena's pulse slowed slightly as she maintained eye contact, showing no fear. She wanted the mother to understand that she would not allow harm to come to her child. Hours passed. The mother did not leave. She moved silently through the colony, occasionally returning her gaze to the storage room. Lena and the child remained hidden, observing. The colony was mostly asleep, unaware of the presence of the most intelligent predator Lena had ever encountered. The mother's vigilance was absolute. She seemed capable of detecting even the smallest threat, responding with speed and precision. Lena took careful notes in her mind. The mother's intelligence was extraordinary. She reacted to the environment, understood potential dangers, and protected her child with unwavering focus. Lena realized that this was not just an alien. This was a being capable of reasoning, planning, and making decisions beyond human comprehension. As dawn approached, the mother finally moved away from the storage room. She did not leave the colony. Instead, she retreated to the outer desert, remaining just beyond view. Lena watched her go, feeling a mixture of awe and relief. The child hummed softly, leaning against Lena, and she whispered, "She will return, and we must be ready." The first rays of sunlight touched the desert sand. Lena stepped outside carefully, scanning the horizon. There were no signs of immediate danger, but she knew the mother was still out there, observing, protecting, and waiting. Lena felt a deep respect for the creature. She had never encountered an alien with such intelligence, precision, and loyalty. It was unlike anything humans had faced before. The colony began to stir. Machines powered up, lights flickered to life, and workers emerged from their quarters. Lena knew that the mother's presence had gone mostly unnoticed, but she also knew that this would not last forever. Communication with the colony leadership would be essential to prevent panic or retaliation. She returned to the storage room, placing a gentle hand on the child's small arm. "We survived the night," she said softly. "She is strong, but she is not cruel. She is only protecting you." The child hummed in response, tilting its head and pressing closer to Lena. She felt a quiet sense of determination. They had survived the first encounter, but the challenges were only beginning. Lena realized that understanding the mother's intelligence would be key to survival. She would need to observe, learn, and communicate in ways humans had never tried before. The mother was a silent guardian, precise and deadly, yet capable of trust. Lena knew that if she could bridge the gap between human and alien understanding, it could change everything about life on Eridos. As the day began, Lena whispered to the child, "Stay close. We will face whatever comes together. And when she returns, we will be ready." The child hummed softly, leaning against her shoulder. Lena looked toward the desert horizon, knowing that the mother was watching. She felt a mixture of fear, respect, and hope. This encounter was not the end, it was the beginning of a story that would test courage, intelligence, and the bond between two very different species. The desert sun rose slowly over Eridos, painting the colony in shades of pale green and silver. Lena stayed close to the storage room, keeping watch over the alien child. Its large eyes scanned the room constantly, alert to every sound and movement. Lena had never seen such intelligence in any creature before. Even small gestures, the way it tilted its head or hummed softly, seemed calculated and meaningful. She knew now that this child was not only aware, but capable of understanding far more than any human would expect. For the next few days, Lena devoted herself to observing and learning from the child. She tried simple gestures, pointing at objects, mimicking its hums, and using hand signals. The child responded with its own sounds and movements. It was like a conversation without words, a silent understanding forming between them. Lena felt a bond growing stronger with every passing moment. One evening, Lena noticed something remarkable. The child picked up a small, broken tool from the floor and began examining it. Its fingers moved carefully over the edges, testing weight and shape. Lena watched in awe as the child manipulated the tool with skill and intelligence. It was learning how to interact with human technology. She whispered softly, "You're very clever. You understand more than I thought." The child hummed in reply, tilting its head in what Lena interpreted as agreement. As the days passed, the colony began to notice unusual patterns. Machines and systems that had been failing at random now seemed to operate normally, except in areas near the storage room. Lena realized that the child's presence affected the environment. Its intelligence seemed to influence nearby systems, making some machines more responsive while others behaved strangely. The child's connection to its surroundings was more profound than she had imagined. Lena knew she could not keep the child hidden forever. The colony would eventually discover it, and the consequences could be dangerous. She began considering how to communicate with the adults, the mother and possibly others if they arrived. She had observed the mother from a distance during her first appearance. The alien was intelligent, precise, and protective. Any attempt at harm could result in disaster. Lena needed to learn quickly how to show trust and cooperation. That night, the child began a new series of hums, longer, more melodic, and almost structured. Lena leaned closer, listening carefully. She tried to mimic the sounds, experimenting with pitch and rhythm. The child paused, studied her, and then hummed again, slightly adjusting its tone. Lena realized that this was more than mimicry. It was communication, a way of conveying ideas without words. She felt a thrill of understanding. The child was teaching her how to connect. The following day, Lena attempted a new method. She placed small objects on the floor, rocks, tools, and containers, then used gestures to indicate what she wanted the child to do. To her amazement, the child responded accurately, following her guidance with precise movements. Lena felt a surge of hope. If the child could learn human gestures and understand simple instructions, perhaps she could also convey intentions to the mother. Lena also began to notice patterns in the child's behavior. Certain hums were repeated at specific times or in response to particular events. When Lena tried to replicate them, the child often responded by pointing or touching objects. She realized that the child's language was complex, subtle, and full of context. Every gesture and sound had meaning. Lena marveled at the depth of intelligence before her. The colony's daily routines continued, but Lena remained vigilant. She moved carefully, avoiding unnecessary attention, and continued her silent lessons with the child. She noticed that the child would occasionally pause, staring toward the windows and doors, as if sensing the mother's presence. Lena understood that the mother was always watching, always aware, and her intelligence surpassed even the child's remarkable abilities. One evening, Lena and the child practiced near the observation window. She placed a small light in the sand outside and pointed toward it. The child touched the light with its tiny fingers, then hummed in a way that seemed to describe the object. Lena mimicked the hum, and the child repeated it, adding slight variations. It was a game of learning and understanding, a silent exchange that strengthened their bond. Suddenly, Lena noticed movement in the desert beyond the colony walls. A shadow passed near the dunes, sleek and deliberate. Her heart raced. The mother was returning. The child immediately stopped humming and pressed close to Lena. Lena whispered, "Stay calm. She is watching, but she will not harm us if we are careful." The child hummed softly, leaning against her shoulder. Lena felt a deep connection to both the child and the approaching mother. When the mother arrived, she did not rush or attack. She moved with precision, scanning the colony with sharp, intelligent eyes. Lena remained still, showing no fear. She raised a hand slowly, a universal gesture of peace. The mother paused, tilted her head, and studied Lena. Lena could feel the awareness and intelligence in that gaze. This was a creature capable of judgment, reasoning, and understanding. She had to be careful, but she also knew that trust could be built. The child hummed softly, a signal that Lena interpreted as reassurance. The mother's eyes focused on the child, then on Lena. Lena slowly gestured toward herself, then to the child, indicating that she was protecting it and meant no harm. The mother watched for a long moment, then made a subtle movement, lowering her head slightly. Lena understood this as acknowledgement. The mother was observing, assessing, and perhaps beginning to understand Lena's intentions. For the next several hours, Lena continued her silent lessons with the child. She experimented with gestures, objects, and sounds, trying to build a shared understanding. The child responded with intelligence, precision, and curiosity. Lena realized that this was not only about communication, it was about mutual trust, a bond that could extend to the mother if handled correctly. As night fell, Lena reflected on the events of the day. She had learned so much from the child in just a few days. Every hum, gesture, and movement was a clue to a larger intelligence, one that surpassed human understanding in subtle ways. She realized that survival depended on patience, observation, and respect. The mother was a challenge, but also an opportunity. If she could demonstrate trust and care, perhaps humans and the aliens could coexist. Lena placed a gentle hand on the child's small arm. "We are learning together," she whispered. The child hummed, tilting its head in response. Lena felt hope, courage, and determination. She knew that understanding the mother's mind would be difficult, but she also knew it was essential. They were no longer just two beings trying to survive, they were a team, facing a future full of challenges, intelligence, and wonder. The child hummed one last time before settling down to sleep. Lena stayed awake, keeping watch, knowing that the mother's return was only a matter of time. She was ready to face the next encounter, armed with understanding, patience, and a growing bond that could bridge the gap between species. The colony might not yet know the truth, but Lena understood that compassion, intelligence, and trust were the keys to survival. The colony on Eridos buzzed with its usual daytime activity. Workers moved along corridors, drones hovered above, and the desert sun reflected off the metal structures. Lena stayed alert, keeping the alien child close. Over the past days, she had learned much from the child: its intelligence, its awareness, and the subtle ways it communicated with her. But she also knew that the mother alien's presence remained a threat to anyone who might act recklessly. That morning, Lena noticed unusual movements outside the colony walls. Faint shadows crossed the desert sand. She could feel the presence of the mother alien, observing from a distance. The child sensed it too, leaning close and humming softly. Lena understood that the mother's intelligence extended beyond what she could see. She could influence the environment and detect threats without appearing. Lena knew that she could not hide the child forever. Rumors were already spreading among the colony workers about strange sounds, flickering lights, and sudden equipment failures. Some began whispering about unknown creatures, while others dismissed it as normal desert anomalies. Lena realized that the colony leadership might soon intervene, and any misunderstanding could be disastrous. That evening, she decided to act. She gathered a few trusted colleagues who had shown calm judgment and explained what she had observed. She described the child, its intelligence, and the mother alien's protective behavior. The workers listened with a mixture of awe and fear. Lena emphasized the need for caution. "This is not a creature we can fight," she said softly. "She is intelligent, precise, and protective. Any threat to the child could be met with deadly force." The colony leaders were skeptical. A small team was sent to investigate, but Lena stopped them before they entered the storage room. "Wait," she said. "We need to understand her first. If we approach without caution, lives could be lost. I have been learning from the child, and I can communicate with her. Please trust me." The leaders hesitated but agreed, if only to avoid immediate disaster. That night, the mother alien approached the colony. Lena and the child were waiting in the storage room. They had prepared small signals, gestures, and hums to communicate their intentions. When the mother arrived, she moved silently through the corridors, observing without haste. Lena could feel her calculating presence, noting every step, every movement, and every potential threat. The mother stopped near the storage room. Lena gestured slowly, raising her hand in a universal sign of peace. The child hummed softly, demonstrating trust. The mother tilted her head and studied them, then made a subtle movement that Lena interpreted as acknowledgement. The first step toward understanding had been made. Suddenly, a worker, unaware of the situation, entered the hallway carrying a tool. The mother reacted immediately. She moved with incredible speed and precision, but not toward the human. Instead, she positioned herself between the worker and the storage room, her body low and sleek. The worker froze, sensing the presence, and slowly retreated without incident. Lena realized that the mother's actions were controlled. She did not attack unnecessarily. She only protected. Lena stepped forward cautiously, keeping her hand visible. She tried a new set of gestures, pointing to herself, then the child, then the mother. The child hummed in response, mirroring Lena's actions. The mother observed carefully. Lena could feel her intelligence, her awareness, and her understanding growing. She realized that the mother's species could interpret actions, intentions, and emotions in ways humans could barely imagine. The night continued with careful observation. Lena and the child moved through the room, demonstrating calm, careful behavior. The mother mirrored some of their movements from a distance, showing signs of recognition. It was not yet trust, but it was understanding. Lena felt a quiet hope. If she could continue this silent communication, perhaps a fragile coexistence could be achieved. The colony, however, was still unaware of the full situation. Rumors had reached some workers that strange creatures were moving at night. Panic was rising. Lena knew that one wrong move could trigger a disaster. She needed to maintain control and keep the mother and child safe while preventing the colony from reacting hastily. A sudden alarm sounded from one of the mining sections. Lena froze. She knew the mother would be aware of the disturbance. She quickly gathered the child and moved to a safe observation point. From there, she could see the mother moving toward the source of the alarm. She reacted with calculated precision, neutralizing a potential hazard in the mining section without harming any humans. Lena watched in awe. The mother's intelligence and skill were unmatched. She solved problems with speed and accuracy, ensuring the safety of both her child and the humans. After the situation was under control, Lena returned to the storage room. The child hummed softly, leaning against her shoulder. Lena whispered, "She is incredible. She protects, observes, and reacts without unnecessary harm. We must continue learning from her." The child responded with a gentle hum, signaling agreement and trust. The next few days were a test of patience and understanding. Lena worked closely with the child, teaching it simple gestures to convey intent. She practiced small signals toward the mother, showing peace and cooperation. Slowly, the mother began to respond. She would mirror some gestures, pause near the storage room, and occasionally move closer without threat. Lena realized that the mother was testing boundaries, measuring intentions, and slowly building trust. The colony continued its routines, but Lena remained vigilant. She ensured that no worker entered the storage room or approached the child without guidance. She also observed the mother from a distance, noting her behavior, her intelligence, and her precision. Lena began documenting patterns, hums, and gestures, hoping that one day she could teach others to understand and coexist with these extraordinary creatures. One night, as Lena and the child rested near the observation window, the mother approached once again. She moved slowly, deliberately, and stopped a few meters away. Lena raised her hand and gestured carefully. The child hummed softly, showing calm. The mother observed for a long moment, then tilted her head and made a subtle, fluid movement. Lena interpreted this as acknowledgement of their peaceful intentions. For the first time, Lena felt that coexistence was possible. The mother's intelligence, precision, and protective instincts could be respected. If humans could learn to understand her, and if the mother could learn to recognize their intentions, then trust could be built. Lena knew it would take time, patience, and careful observation. But she also knew that the first steps had been taken. As dawn approached, Lena whispered to the child, "We are learning. We are building trust. And one day, the colony will understand too." The child hummed softly, leaning against her shoulder. Lena looked toward the desert horizon, knowing that the mother was watching. The balance between fear and understanding was delicate, but for the first time, Lena felt hope. The colony might not yet grasp the intelligence and precision of these alien creatures, but Lena understood. The mother was not a mindless predator. She was a guardian, a thinker, and a protector. And Lena knew that if humans and aliens could learn to communicate, respect, and coexist, Eridos could become a place of understanding rather than fear. In the quiet of the desert night, Lena and the child prepared for the next encounter, ready to face the challenges of intelligence, protection, and coexistence together. The desert wind blew softly across Eridos, carrying the faint scent of the minerals that lay beneath the sand. Lena stood near the storage room, keeping watch over the alien child. The past days had been a test of patience, understanding, and courage. She had learned to interpret the child's hums, gestures, and movements. She had observed the mother alien, respecting her intelligence, precision, and protective instincts. Now, Lena knew that the final step toward coexistence was at hand. That morning, the colony stirred as usual. Workers moved through corridors, drones hovered above, and lights flickered across the metal towers. Lena stayed close to the storage room, holding the child's small hand in hers. Its large eyes scanned the room constantly, alert but calm. Lena smiled gently. They had both grown more confident in their understanding of each other. The bond between them was strong, unspoken, and full of trust. Suddenly, a soft hum echoed from the desert beyond the colony walls. Lena's heart raced. She knew the sound. The mother alien had returned. This time, her movements were slower, deliberate, and purposeful. She approached the colony in silence, gliding over the sand with unmatched precision. Lena could feel the intelligence behind each motion, the awareness of every potential threat and every vulnerable life in the colony. Lena knelt beside the child. "Stay close. Show calm. We are ready," she whispered. The child hummed in response, pressing its small body against hers. Lena understood that the mother was aware of every gesture, every heartbeat, and every intention. The final test had begun. The mother moved near the storage room, pausing to observe. Lena held up her hand slowly, signaling peace. She then gestured toward herself, the child, and the mother, indicating understanding and cooperation. The child mirrored her gestures, humming softly. For a long moment, the mother remained still, her dark eyes fixed on the two of them. Then, she made a fluid movement, stepping closer. Lena could feel the intelligence in that movement, a recognition of trust, a willingness to accept their intentions. Outside, the colony remained unaware of the extraordinary event unfolding. Lena knew that any sudden action from the mother could trigger panic or disaster. She focused on calmness, patience, and precise gestures. The child hummed softly, guiding Lena in a silent conversation. Lena mimicked the hums, gestured carefully, and maintained her steady gaze on the mother. Slowly, the alien responded, moving closer with cautious understanding. Hours passed in tense observation. Lena and the child communicated through gestures, hums, and small movements. The mother mirrored some of these actions, showing recognition and understanding. It was a silent exchange, a negotiation of trust. Lena realized that this moment was crucial. The mother could either accept their intentions or perceive a threat. The future of coexistence depended on this delicate balance. Then, a sudden noise came from the outer corridors of the colony. A drone had malfunctioned, clattering against a wall. Lena froze. The mother reacted immediately, gliding toward the sound with silent speed. She investigated the disturbance, assessed the situation, and returned without aggression. Lena felt a surge of relief. The mother was not mindless, she was reasoning, understanding, and protecting without unnecessary harm. Lena whispered to the child, "She is watching. She understands that we mean no harm." The child hummed softly, leaning against her. Lena felt a deep sense of hope. They had passed the first true test. Trust was being built, not through words, but through understanding, patience, and respect. As night fell, Lena and the child prepared a small gesture of goodwill. She placed a shallow dish of water outside the storage room and gestured for the child to approach. The child touched the water gently, then hummed. Lena mirrored the hum, pointing toward the mother outside. The mother observed, paused, and then moved closer to the dish, lowering her head in a subtle, careful movement. Lena realized that this was a moment of acknowledgement, a sign that the mother recognized their peaceful intentions. The next few days were a careful dance of observation and silent communication. Lena continued to teach the child new gestures, hums, and signals. The mother responded with fluid, intelligent movements. Slowly, Lena understood the depth of the alien intelligence. The mother was not only protective but capable of reasoning, problem-solving, and assessing intentions far beyond human understanding. The colony remained largely unaware of the extraordinary events unfolding. Lena knew that revealing the truth too soon could cause panic, but she also knew that preparation was essential. She continued to teach the child, observing the mother, and documenting patterns in behavior. Every hum, gesture, and movement became a lesson in understanding and coexistence. Then, one evening, the mother made a decisive move. She entered the outer corridors of the colony, gliding silently, and stopped near Lena and the child. She extended one limb slowly, a gesture of recognition. Lena understood immediately. The mother was signaling trust, not aggression. She had accepted their intentions. Lena took a deep breath, feeling a mixture of awe, relief, and hope. She knelt beside the child, whispering, "She trusts us. We can build understanding together." The child hummed softly, leaning into her embrace. Lena felt the strength of the bond between them. Trust had been earned through patience, observation, and respect. The mother's intelligence had been recognized, and in turn, she had recognized theirs. The desert night grew quiet. Lena watched the mother glide back toward the dunes, her movements precise and deliberate. The child hummed softly, a melody of comfort and reassurance. Lena whispered, "We have succeeded. The first step toward coexistence is complete." She felt a deep sense of accomplishment and responsibility. The colony had yet to understand, but she had laid the foundation for a future where humans and aliens could exist together without fear. Over the following weeks, Lena continued her careful work. She maintained the bond with the child, observed the mother from a distance, and prepared for any challenges. Slowly, the colony began to notice fewer malfunctions and strange occurrences. Machines ran more smoothly, and shadows no longer seemed to move with intent. Lena knew that the mother's presence had become a stabilizing force, her intelligence guiding the environment and ensuring safety. Lena reflected on everything she had learned. The alien child and its mother had shown her a new perspective, one of intelligence, precision, and silent communication. They were not threats but beings capable of deep reasoning and care. Lena realized that survival depended on understanding, trust, and patience, not fear or aggression. As she watched the sun rise over the desert, Lena whispered to the child, "We have a future together, full of understanding and trust. One day, the colony will see what we have learned." The child hummed softly, pressing its small hand into hers. Lena felt a quiet hope. The bond between human and alien had been forged, and it was stronger than any fear or misunderstanding. The mother remained on the outskirts, observing, protecting, and teaching in her own silent way. Lena knew that the future would require continued care, patience, and vigilance. but for the first time, she felt certain that humans and these extraordinary aliens could coexist. Trust had been earned, bonds had been formed, and a new chapter for the colony on Eridos had begun. In the quiet desert night, under the pale green moons, Lena, the child, and the mother shared an unspoken understanding. They were connected by trust, intelligence, and care. The colony slept peacefully, unaware that a new era of coexistence had quietly begun. And Lena knew that the journey of learning, understanding, and mutual respect had only just begun.